Hey guys, welcome to a brand new KeyForge video, and in this video we will be ranking even more of the top cards in KeyForge sets. And in this one we will be doing Age of Ascension and Worlds Collide. And real quick before we get into it, I just wanted to let you guys know that this is completely my opinion and it's not any sort of official ranking system, and I hope that you guys can kind of agree with this because I am picking it not necessarily off of just the most overpowered card, but also because of the artwork and what kind of cool combos or anything cool about that card, and not specifically just the power. So to get it started, we have the Spirit's Way, which reads, play, destroy each creature with power 3 or higher. And I thought this card would be pretty cool to add in just because it's a pretty unique card that I don't really see too often, and it seems like it can be really helpful when you have your opponent's battle line that has a bunch of really high power creatures, and then you can kind of board wipe. And if you have really low power creatures, you can actually do a one-sided board wipe, which can be really helpful. Moving on to number 4, we have the Eye of Judgment, and it reads, action, purge a creature from a discard pile. And this card can be really helpful, especially if you have a creature in your opponent's battle line that you don't like, and then what you can do is you can just destroy that creature, find a way to destroy it, and then you can purge it by using this action after you destroy it because it will automatically be in their discard pile. So I think this card is pretty cool for that. And also, I think the artwork is pretty cool for this one, and I just wanted to point out that because it is pretty cool how it literally looks like an eye, and if you see the little design in there on the little glowing orb, it looks kind of like the Sanctum symbol, and I think that's pretty cool. Moving on to number 3, we have Rigged Lottery, and it reads, play. Each player discards the top 5 cards of their deck. For each Shadows card discarded, its owner gains 1 Ember. And you may be wondering, why did I put this high on the list? And this is just because it really is a rigged lottery, because if you have a deck that has Shadows and has this card in it, and your opponent has a deck that doesn't have Shadows in it, it'll be really helpful, especially if you know you have cards on the top of your deck that are in Shadows. Alrighty, coming in at number 2, we have Bradenator Rupture, and it's an alpha card that reads, play, each player gains Ember equal to the Ember in their pool. And this card can be super helpful if you have a lot of Ember and your opponent doesn't have any Ember, and this could be because they just forged or something like that. And I do think this card does have a little bit of limitation because it is an alpha card. But I picked this to go here because of the combo that it has with Interdimensional Graft, which reads, play. If an opponent forges a key on their next turn, they must give you their remaining Ember. And if you haven't ever seen this combo, basically you just put Bradenator Rupture down, which makes your opponent Ember jump in their pool, and then they're forced to forge pretty much on their next turn, and then you can get a bunch of remaining Ember. And this does work out, but specifically I put Bradenator Rupture here because it is probably the more powerful card out of the two. At number 1, we have Punctuated Equilibrium, and it reads, play. Each player discards their hand, then refills their hand as if it was their draw card step. And this card is just super fun, and the reason why I think this card is so good is just because of the fact that you can discard your hand and refill your hand as if it was your draw card step, even if you had only like 1 or 2 cards. So you just have to play your turn out and then play this action card so that you can get an extra 6 or whatever cards into your hand. Not only that, but for some weird reason, I really like this artwork. You guys let me know if you like this artwork, but me personally, I really like this artwork. And the last thing I have to say about this card is just the fact that there's no negative side to it. I mean, when wouldn't you want to refill your hand unless if you're saving up some really cool play? But just do it afterwards if you are doing that. And yes, guys, I know I didn't put in Orb of Invidious, which is my favorite card, but I figured that the majority of the community wouldn't fully agree with that, so I decided not to include it. But if you want to know why that is my favorite card, I do have a shorts on my channel that you can go check out. Moving on to Worlds Collide, and Worlds Collide is a super cool set. I am not at all a fan of the Bromnar in it, but however, I do think there are still pretty cool cards in this set. And not to mention, it introduced anomalies, and I will go through the anomalies in another video, but for now, these are cards that I liked that didn't include anomalies. So first off, we have a card that everyone likes but isn't too powerful, PRAEFECTUS LUDO, and it reads, each other friendly creature gains destroyed. Move each ember from this creature to the common supply. So basically, you make it so that you can capture Ember, and then it doesn't go back to your opponent when it gets destroyed. And this is just really helpful, and there's no negative side to it, but it's not super overpowered, and I just thought I'd include this card because it's such a classic card to me, and I think everyone can agree that this is a pretty cool card. And there were only 4 cards that really stuck out to me on this set. So moving on to number 3, we have Daughter, and it is elusive and says, during your draw card step, refill your hand to 1 additional card. This card is another classic where there's nothing really to worry about with this card, and you can always use another card in your hand. And if you happen to have a card that gives you chains and you still want those cards, you can in a way get them back with Daughter. And one more thing about this card is that if you ward it, then you have an even more possibility of continuing to draw 1 additional card. Moving on to number 2, I decided to go with TELIGA, and it reads, each time your opponent plays a creature, gain 1 ember. And this is one of those cards where if you can sneak it out there with your opponent not knowing, then they messed up because you're going to end up with a ton of ember and they're not going to know why. And again with this creature, you can ward it just like Daughter, and it'll make it 10 times better because you can continuously have this out. And also, not to mention, you're going to gain at least 1 ember because your opponent is going to have to play at least 1 card, unless if they already have creatures out, to destroy this card. And at number 1, I decided to go with INFURNACE. And this card is just such a fun card to me because it reads, play, purge up to 2 cards from a discard pile. Your opponent loses ember equal to the number of ember bonus icons on the purged cards. This card is especially good when your opponent has some cards like Dust Pixie or something that has a good amount of ember pips on it. And not only are you going to be making your opponent lose ember this way, but you're also purging their cards. And if you have a deck like mine, where you have 2 INFURNACEs in one deck, and you have a good way to cycle back to them, then you can continuously purge cards, and then you can leave your opponent with like 8 cards purged by the end of the game, and then they just have their worst cards out there. Alrighty guys, that's going to be it for this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't seen part 1, go ahead and watch that. and be on the lookout for part 3, where I will be doing even more sets. And if you didn't enjoy it in the sense of you didn't agree with certain things that I ranked, then let me know what you guys would have done if you would have switched around the ranks, if you would have added cards or taken out cards. Just let me know, because I'm very curious to know what you guys think. And that's going to be it for this video. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.